25 minutes, didn't look like we had any business beating this Connecticut Sun team. For 25 minutes, we looked like the worst team on the court. Defensive rotations, Marina hitting the three, Sanaya Rivers taking it to the rim, Tina Charles, Aaliyah Edwards, out rebounding AB, Natasha Howard, but we came alive when we needed to come alive. We forced overtime. Kelsey Mitchell, back-to-back threes in OT. Lexi Hull, dagger three, putting the nail in the coffin.
What you're about to witness is the most explosive MVP scandal that nobody wants you to see. While the WNBA desperately pushes their Caitlin Clark narrative, Kelsey Mitchell just delivered a nuclear performance that completely destroys everything the league has been trying to sell you. Welcome back to the channel Digital Detectives. I'm Jax Riley, and today we're following the digital breadcrumbs that lead to one of the most blatant MVP conspiracies in WNBA history. What happened in Indiana last night wasn't just basketball, it was a systematic exposure of how the league manipulates narratives while burying the real story. But before we dive into this explosive investigation, smash that like button if you're ready to see what the mainstream channels won't tell you, and drop MVP truth in the comments if you're tired of the media manipulation. Because what I'm about to show you will change how you see this entire MVP race. Now, let me paint you the picture that ESPN, The Athletic, and every other major outlet is desperately trying to hide. Kelsey Mitchell just put up 38 points, the highest scoring game by any WNBA player in 2025. Not Aja Wilson, not Nafisa Collier, not even the league's golden child Caitlin Clark during her peak. Kelsey Mitchell owns that record right now. But here's where the story gets absolutely wild, and this is what separates us from every other channel covering this story. While everyone else is focused on injury drama and conspiracy theories about dirty plays, they're completely missing the nuclear bomb that just exploded in the MVP conversation.
So proud of you. I'm proud of you too. Proud of you. I'm so proud of you guys. I know that sometimes it sounds like just a word when we talk about being resilient, but it's not, man. It's how we live. Yep. It's how y'all live, and it's a tribute to you. It's a tribute to your connectedness, your togetherness, your toughness, your mindset. You never give up gritty attitudes. Like, that's what it takes. That's what it takes. And we will never be counted out. Because that is worth gold. That is worth.
Reading the signals from what just happened, Mitchell didn't just score 38 points. She joined Diana Taurasi as the only players in WNBA history with multiple games of 35-plus points, 6-plus assists, and 5-plus three-pointers. That's not just elite company, that's Mount Rushmore territory that the league is pretending doesn't exist. Following the digital breadcrumbs even deeper, this performance came during the most crucial game of Indiana's season, with their playoff hopes hanging by a thread, and their roster held together by athletic tape and pure determination. Yet somehow, the narrative temperature across social media is still obsessing over Caitlin Clark's MVP chances, despite missing 13 consecutive games. So what's fact and what's manipulation? Let's break it down systematically. The temperature of the online conversation suggests something much deeper is happening here than just one incredible performance. I've been filtering through the noise, and the signals point to a coordinated effort to suppress Mitchell's MVP campaign while artificially propping up narratives around players who haven't been on the court. But here's what they missed completely, and this is the angle nobody's covering. Mitchell's teammates are launching an organic viral MVP campaign that's generating more authentic engagement than any traditional media coverage. Caitlin Clark herself tweeted MVP Kels and KLS after this performance, and those simple endorsements are carrying more weight than 1,000-word ESPN articles. Connecting the dots here becomes absolutely fascinating when you realize what's actually happening. Clark's social media influence is creating a 3x engagement multiplier for Mitchell's MVP campaign, but the mainstream media is too focused on Clark's own MVP narrative to recognize this seismic shift in the conversation. The digital breadcrumbs lead us to an uncomfortable truth. While the league pushes storylines about players who aren't even playing, Mitchell is systematically dismantling every statistical argument against her candidacy. She's averaging 22.8 points and 4.3 assists since the All-Star break, while shooting 42.1% from the field and 39.5% from three-point range. But that brings us to the inevitable question that's driving this entire conspiracy. Why is the WNBA so desperate to avoid acknowledging what's happening right in front of everyone's eyes? Okay, now let's get into rumor territory. Nothing is officially confirmed, but the online chatter is too loud to ignore. The whispers suggest that certain MVP narratives were essentially pre-written before the season even started, with specific players identified as marketable faces for the league's growth strategy.
Hartley has had dirty plays all season, but you got to know who we're talking about. Bria Hartley is the same girl that pulled Angel Reese out of there by her ponytail just last game, I think 2 days ago. She pulls Becca Allen by her head to the floor, and Ariel Atkins goes over there to protect her teammate. Bria Hartley has been doing dirty things for all season. She's been a dirty...
Official sources won't tell you this, but if you follow the digital breadcrumbs, a different picture emerges. Mitchell's performance isn't just threatening individual MVP campaigns, it's exposing the entire system of how the WNBA manufactures storylines around marketability rather than actual basketball excellence. Reading the temperature of the narrative analyst community, there's a growing recognition that we're witnessing something unprecedented. This isn't just about one player having a great game. This is about systematic narrative manipulation being challenged by undeniable performance that can't be ignored or spun away. The competitive intelligence reveals something even more explosive when you dig deeper into the supporting evidence. Aaliyah Boston, Lexi Hull, and multiple teammates are all publicly endorsing Mitchell's MVP campaign through social media, creating an authentic grassroots movement that's completely organic and unmanufactured. But the story doesn't end there. The viral mechanics behind this MVP campaign are operating on a completely different level than traditional media coverage.
I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what it was at first when I saw her went down. So let's break down the play where Sophie got hurt. So as you can see here, Bria Hartley is going baseline. Kelsey Mitchell is guarding her, and then Sophie comes over to help. And then Bria Hartley falls on her leg, and Sophie immediately grabs like her shin area.
When teammates post simple but powerful endorsements like MVP Kels, those authentic peer endorsements are performing significantly better than lengthy analytical pieces from major outlets. So what's really happening here? Let me filter out the noise and give you the signals that matter. Mitchell's 38-point explosion came during a historic 21-point comeback, the largest in franchise history. But more importantly, it demonstrated the kind of clutch performance and leadership that actually defines MVP-caliber players. She scored 34 of those points in the second half and overtime, including AL-10 of Indiana's overtime points. That brings us to the most incredible aspect of this entire story, and here's where the investigation takes its most dramatic turn. While everyone else was focused on injury conspiracies and dirty play allegations, they completely missed the championship-level performance that was unfolding in real time. Reading the signals from the game footage, Mitchell didn't just score points randomly. She went 5 for 5 from three-point range in the second half, after missing all 3 attempts in the first half. That kind of mental adjustment and clutch shooting under pressure is exactly what separates true superstars from statistical accumulators. The temperature of the online conversation reveals something fascinating about how authentic MVP campaigns develop versus manufactured ones. When Caitlin Clark tweets single-word endorsements for Mitchell, the engagement rates and authenticity markers are off the charts compared to traditional media MVP discussions. But here's what the other channels won't tell you about why this performance is so threatening to established narratives. Mitchell isn't just putting up numbers, she's doing it while carrying a depleted roster through the most adverse circumstances possible, which is exactly what MVP awards are supposed to recognize. Connecting the dots between Mitchell's performance and the broader WNBA landscape, we're seeing the emergence of a player who's forcing the league to confront its own hypocrisy about merit versus marketability. You can't ignore 38 points in the highest stakes situation possible, while simultaneously arguing that players missing games deserve MVP consideration. Following the digital breadcrumbs to their logical conclusion, Mitchell's campaign represents something much bigger than individual recognition. It's about whether the WNBA will reward actual basketball excellence.
They went at Sophie Cunningham early, and considering this is Bria Hartley, I'm not ruling out that she jumped through her knee. Considering who it is, I'm not. Like, Bria Hartley has been ejected multiple times. She's yanked Angel by the hair. This is the Connecticut Sun. This is a team that have jumped through players' knees before.
Or continue manufacturing storylines around players who fit predetermined marketing strategies. Okay, now let's get into speculation territory. Nothing is officially confirmed, but the signals point toward a potential shift in how MVP narratives develop going forward. The organic social media campaign building around Mitchell suggests that player-driven endorsements might carry more weight than traditional media coverage. The temperature of the narrative analysts community indicates we're witnessing a fundamental change in how basketball excellence gets recognized and amplified. Mitchell's teammates aren't just supporting her MVP campaign, they're creating a new model for how authentic peer endorsement can challenge manufactured league narratives. But the investigation reveals something even more explosive when you examine the competitive gaps in mainstream coverage. While other channels obsess over conspiracy theories and injury drama, they're systematically ignoring the most significant basketball performance of the entire 2025 season. Reading the signals from social media engagement patterns, Mitchell's performance is generating the kind of viral momentum that can't be manufactured or controlled by traditional gatekeepers. When teammates organically create MVP campaigns through authentic endorsements, it carries exponentially more credibility than any media push. Official sources won't tell you this, but if you follow the digital breadcrumbs, the MVP conversation is shifting in real time based on undeniable performance rather than predetermined narratives. Mitchell isn't just playing her way into contention, she's exposing how hollow some of the other campaigns really are. That brings us to the inevitable question that's driving this entire investigation: what happens when a player delivers MVP-caliber performance that can't be ignored, manipulated, or spun to fit existing narratives? The answer is what we're witnessing right now, a systematic exposure of how the WNBA has been managing storylines.
Sophie's sister, I believe, and her mother both tweeted about this play. Now, Lindsay, her sister, said, WNBA, maybe you should focus less on fining players for commenting on your poor officiating and more about hiring officials that are able to call a consistent game and protect your athletes. Pathetic. Praying for you, Sophie. And then Paula, who I think is her mom, that's what the internet is saying, she said Hartley is a disgruntled player, having trouble everywhere she goes. She's plain mean and plays out of on the ground. She was crying, she was yelling. It definitely seemed like she was in a ton of pain. The training staff went over to her. They went to commercial break. Like, it was a real injury. This wasn't something, and Sophie's the type of player, a lot of times when she does get injured, she just gets right back up. She tries to walk it off. This was something that kept her down, and it was so hard to see. It is ironic because Bria Hartley has been in multiple scuffles this year with the Connecticut Sun. A lot of people would categorize her as a dirty
versus recognizing actual basketball excellence. Mitchell's 38-point explosion didn't just break franchise records, it broke the entire MVP narrative framework. But here's where the story takes its most fascinating turn, and this is what separates us from every other analysis you'll find. Mitchell's performance is creating a ripple effect that extends far beyond individual recognition. It's forcing conversations about how the league evaluates greatness and whether marketability should supersede merit. Filtering through the noise of mainstream coverage, Mitchell's campaign represents something unprecedented in WNBA history. She's not just accumulating statistics, she's delivering clutch performances in elimination-level situations while carrying a depleted roster, which is exactly what MVP awards were designed to recognize. The competitive intelligence reveals that other outlets are systematically undervaluing this story because it doesn't fit their predetermined narratives about which players deserve recognition. But the digital breadcrumbs don't lie. Mitchell's performance speaks for itself regardless of marketing strategies. Reading the temperature of the basketball analytics community, Mitchell's statistical profile since the All-Star break places her among the elite tier of MVP candidates by every meaningful metric. The only question is whether the league will acknowledge what the numbers clearly demonstrate. Official sources won't tell you this, but if you follow the digital breadcrumbs, Mitchell's teammates recognize something that mainstream media is missing. Their organic social media campaign isn't just about individual support, it's about authentic peer recognition of basketball excellence. The investigation reveals something even more significant when you examine the broader context of Mitchell's emergence. She's not just having a great season, she's redefining what MVP candidacy looks like in an era where narrative manipulation often supersedes actual performance. Connecting the dots between Mitchell's individual excellence and team success, the Fever have now positioned themselves 2.5 games ahead of the 9th-place Los Angeles Sparks, with just 9 games remaining. That's not just personal achievement, that's MVP-level impact on team success. But the story doesn't end there, because Mitchell's performance is creating a blueprint for how future MVP campaigns might develop. When teammates create organic endorsement campaigns through authentic social media support, it generates engagement and credibility that manufactured narratives simply can't match. The temperature of the online conversation suggests we're witnessing a fundamental shift in how basketball excellence gets recognized and amplified. Mitchell isn't just challenging individual MVP candidates, she's challenging the entire system of how narratives get created and sustained. Following the digital breadcrumbs to their ultimate conclusion, Mitchell's 38-point explosion represents more than just one incredible performance. It's a systematic exposure of how the WNBA has been managing storylines versus recognizing undeniable basketball excellence. Reading the signals from authentic peer endorsement, Mitchell's teammates understand something that traditional media gatekeepers are missing. They're not just supporting her MVP campaign, they're validating a new model for how basketball greatness should be recognized and celebrated. Okay, now let's get into the most explosive speculation territory. Nothing is officially confirmed, but the online chatter suggests that Mitchell's performance might be forcing the league to confront some uncomfortable truths about how MVP narratives have been manufactured versus earned. The digital breadcrumbs lead to an inevitable conclusion. When a player delivers this level of performance in the highest stakes situations possible, traditional narrative manipulation becomes unsustainable. Mitchell isn't just playing basketball, she's exposing the entire framework of how the WNBA manages storylines. But here's what makes this investigation so compelling, and this is what other channels completely miss in their surface-level coverage. Mitchell's emergence isn't just about individual recognition, it's about whether the WNBA will evolve toward merit-based evaluation or continue prioritizing predetermined marketing strategies. The temperature of the narrative analyst community indicates that Mitchell's performance has created an inflection point that can't be ignored or spun away. When teammates organically create viral MVP campaigns through authentic endorsements, it carries exponentially more credibility than any traditional media push. Reading the signals from competitive analysis, mainstream outlets are systematically undervaluing this story because it challenges their existing frameworks for how MVP campaigns should develop. But authentic peer recognition operates on a completely different level than manufactured narratives. Following the digital breadcrumbs through social media engagement patterns, Mitchell's campaign is generating the kind of viral momentum that suggests a fundamental shift in how basketball excellence gets amplified and recognized. This isn't just about one player, it's about the entire future of how MVP narratives develop. Official sources won't tell you this, but if you follow the investigation to its logical conclusion, Mitchell's 38-point explosion might represent the moment when undeniable performance finally superseded narrative manipulation in WNBA MVP conversations. The competitive intelligence reveals something that should terrify traditional gatekeepers. Authentic peer endorsement and organic social media campaigns can create more engagement and credibility than any manufactured storyline. Mitchell's teammates aren't just supporting her, they're creating a new blueprint for future MVP campaigns. That brings us to the inevitable question driving this entire investigation: what does it mean for the WNBA when players start creating their own narratives based on actual basketball excellence rather than predetermined marketing strategies? The answer is what we're witnessing in real time, a systematic challenge to how the league has been managing storylines versus recognizing undeniable performance. Mitchell's campaign isn't just about individual recognition, it's about the entire future of how basketball greatness gets evaluated and celebrated. But here's where the investigation takes its most explosive turn, and this is the angle that other channels are too afraid to explore. Mitchell's performance is creating a template for how future MVP campaigns might develop when they're based on authentic peer recognition rather than traditional media manipulation. Reading the temperature of the basketball analytics community, Mitchell's statistical profile and clutch performance delivery place her among the elite tier of MVP candidates by every meaningful metric. The only question is whether traditional gatekeepers will acknowledge what the numbers and peer recognition clearly demonstrate. Filtering through the noise of mainstream coverage, Mitchell's emergence represents something unprecedented in how MVP narratives can develop organically through authentic teammate endorsement and undeniable performance rather than predetermined storylines. The digital breadcrumbs lead to a conclusion that should reshape how we evaluate MVP candidacy going forward. When teammates organically create viral campaigns based on witnessing excellence firsthand, it carries exponentially more credibility than any manufactured narrative. Connecting the dots between Mitchell's individual performance and broader team success, the Fever's historic comeback represents exactly the kind of leadership and clutch execution that MVP awards were designed to recognize. You can't manufacture that kind of impact through marketing strategies. Following the investigation to its ultimate conclusion, Mitchell's 38-point explosion might represent the moment when authentic basketball excellence finally challenged the entire framework of how the WNBA manages MVP narratives. So here's my take on what this all means. Digital detectives. Kelsey Mitchell didn't just put up 38 points last night. She exposed an entire system of narrative manipulation that the league has been using to control MVP conversations. When teammates organically create viral campaigns based on witnessing greatness firsthand, it generates engagement and credibility that manufactured storylines simply cannot match. The MVP race just got nuclear, and traditional gatekeepers are about to discover that authentic peer recognition operates on a completely different level than predetermined marketing strategies. Mitchell isn't just challenging individual candidates, she's challenging the entire framework of how basketball excellence gets recognized and amplified. What do you think about this explosive shift in the MVP conversation? Are you ready to see authentic performance finally supersede narrative manipulation? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to stay ahead of the storylines that mainstream media won't touch. And hey, share this video with anyone who needs to understand what's really happening in the WNBA MVP race, because this investigation reveals truths that you won't find anywhere else. The digital breadcrumbs don't lie, and neither do 38-point explosions in the highest stakes situations possible. The narrative analyst community is growing, and we're committed to following the evidence wherever it leads, regardless of which narratives it challenges or exposes. That's how we separate authentic basketball excellence from manufactured storylines. Until next time, keep filtering out the noise and following the digital breadcrumbs that lead to the truth.